In this picture, you see a group of people wearing masks, although this one is not wearing the mask correctly. One of the women has a sign in front of her reading, "Wear a mask or go to jail." This picture was taken during the Spanish flu pandemic of 1918. It's clear that people back then had intense discussions that centered around masks, with some people agreeing to wear them while others not. Wearing masks during the Spanish flu pandemic proved to be useful in slowing down the spread of the infection. Beyond masks, people back then had discussions about closing schools. Several studies published during the Spanish flu pandemic revealed that in areas where schools were closed, the infection rate was much lower than in areas where schools remained open. Now here is the problem. The same discussions about masks and schools had to be done again over 100 years later during the COVID-19 pandemic of 2020. It's as if humans haven't learned anything from the past, which hints to a big flaw in our collective intelligence. The law of natural selection states that if an organism is to survive, then it must learn from its past mistakes and either adopt to avoid them or perish. We haven't shown any signs of adaptation or avoidance of our past mistakes.
For those in the audience who spoke and said, "I'm worried for my children," well, why? Why are you worried? They're not going to die.
Even though we had 100 years worth of lessons. Between the Spanish flu pandemic of 1918 and the COVID-19 pandemic of 2020, so many other epidemics have happened with so many lessons to learn from. We threw all of those under the rug, and many people paid the price for it with their lives. When you expose an animal to the same threat multiple times, it will learn to avoid it. It's part of evolution and an essential trait of survival. In one experiment, scientists placed a mouse in a maze and allowed it to navigate around. When the mouse reached a certain spot in the maze, it was shocked with electricity. After multiple exposures to the electric shock, the mouse learned to avoid that spot within just a few hours. The mouse has a tiny brain with only 70 million neurons, while humans have a much more complex brain with 86 billion neurons. Yet, this creature with a tiny brain learned from its mistakes within a few hours, while humans with a massive brain had over 100 years to learn life-saving lessons but insisted on repeating the same mistakes. The biggest lesson we learned from the COVID-19 pandemic is that we're not ready. We are not ready to face extinction-level threats, and we may never be. For us humans, there are countless threats lurking around, waiting to be unleashed. COVID-19 was probably the least of them. So, if we continue ignoring historical lessons, especially the ones backed by science, then we are speeding our way into extinction. There is absolutely no question about it. What about you? What was the biggest lesson you learned from the COVID-19 pandemic? Share your answer in the comment section.